It's panic chamber time. You know what that means? Yeah, here on the Fantasy Football Show, you can make the panic chamber, but not necessarily be a player we're panicking on. Maybe we're reacting to the players that the world is panicking on. And then, of course, we talk about players we are truly worried about walking into 2024. Let's break down some panic chamber players for 2024 as we head closer to August 1. The Fantasy Football Show Panic Chamber edition begins right now.
You are entering the panic chamber, brought to you by theattic.shop. Vintage movie tees and hoodies. Are you a panicked Peter? Let's find out. You are entering the panic chamber.
What is going on, everybody? We're here to discuss little Cooper Kupp to kick off Panic Chamber pre-August edition. And this guy is an enigma, if you will, inside the third and fourth round. The one thing I'll say about Cooper Kupp is that very much like Derrick Henry, there's some risk baked into the newfound value that Cooper Kupp has in 2024, different from 2023. If this guy was going on round 1 or even the 2-3 turn or the 2.2, I might be out. As I am out with Derrick Henry if he's going 2.4, 2.3, 2.1, and I certainly wouldn't take him at round 1. To take these former first-round players, Henry or Kupp, and this isn't about Henry, but he's a good example of where that drop-off happens or doesn't happen with older players that you want to bank on for one more year. It just comes down to cost of entry, and Cooper Kupp has tons of upside. When on the field in 2024, he was the number one wide receiver on his team, and I know a lot of people want to say things like, okay, he's 30 years old. I said those things last year. Cooper Kupp, let's have some real talk here. Actually, bring it in. Cooper Kupp was one of my biggest avoids, him and Austin Eckler, of all 2023, and we nailed the hell out of those bust predictions. That doesn't mean that I can't adjust and adapt and circle back and say, you know what? And this is true with Austin Eckler. Eckler is practically free. So I don't mind banking on Eckler, who was injured all year last year, goes now into a different role that's going to be more receiving based. And like Eckler, at practically free value now. It's a totally different Austin Eckler, as is Cooper Kupp, who I still believe can dance with the number one wide receivers all year long, even if he misses time, 4 or 5 games, whatever, which is what happens when you're 30 years old, 31 years old for Cooper Kupp. Ziggy, how old is Cooper Kupp?
Cooper Kupp is 31 years old and was born on June 15, 1993.
31-year-old Cooper Kupp. I'm fine with 31-year-old Cooper Kupp at third, fourth round value. Now, the later you get him, the better. I like him in 4. And 4, he feels like very low risk. At 3, it's borderline where I'm about to jump off the train, but I'm still on board because he can dance with the number ones all year long, like I said. So I'm very much on board this Cooper Kupp train in 2024. I think you should be too. In 2023, Cooper Kupp was all over the board in terms of play. He was 30 years old, getting banged up, couldn't stay healthy, but he had lingering injuries and he couldn't really shake anything. So just like with Austin Eckler, where you got to try and decide how much of last year was injury, how much of this year can he stave off injury and maybe still have some gas left in the tank, just like Austin Eckler. You got to ask that question about Cooper Kupp. What I will say about Cooper Kupp is you look at his finish. Look at weeks 14 on. He was wide receiver number 4 and wide receiver number 5 in weeks 14 and 15. And he was still, he still did decent in weeks 16, 17. He scored a touchdown. Obviously not good yardage, but that was still plenty decent to have 1, 2, 3, 4 touchdowns in the final 5 games. In the final 5 games, he had 4 touchdowns. Pretty impressive for Cooper Kupp. You do look at when he was on the field. Not saying he was perfect in week 7, 8, 9, 11, and 17, and again, he scored in 17, so really take that one out. He had some bad games, but when he was on the field, obviously weeks 1 through 4, injured, comes back 118 yards, back-to-back games, 100 yards, week 6, 148 and 1. That's impressive when you look at it. This guy had 4 100-yard games. And again, the 4 touchdowns in the final 5 weeks. I'm going to say Cooper Kupp has league-winning potential as a late third, early fourth round player. The later you get him, the more league-winning potential you receive. If you take him at 3.1, you're running the risk that he takes your entire season down, but there's still upside anywhere as your third drafted player. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm drafting him more toward the middle of 3, end of round 3, and I'm swinging and hitting a home run anywhere as my 4th drafted player. It's easy to want to put Cooper Kupp in the panic chamber. I get it. And I know a lot of people feel that, he disappointed last year, so I'm not going near it. The PTSD is real for a lot of people. That picture was crooked that entire time. I don't know what the hell is going on in here. What was I saying? It's easy to say, oh, Cooper Kupp can't do this, Cooper Kupp can't do that. And I would be with you on this if we had no evidence of him rebounding. But we have plenty of evidence of him rebounding with 4 100-yard games. As I said, 4 touchdowns in the last 5 games. There's a lot of evidence right there at the tail end of the year to say that if he can stay healthy, he's going to ball out. And the 3rd, especially 4th round ADP, packages in every bit of risk. I'm going to say this right now. Cooper Kupp, you are not in the panic chamber, young man. You are safe.
You are safe.
And we're going to let everybody else be Panic Peters on you, young man. Okay, so when we're talking about Brock Bowers, it's a tough conversation because we all love Brock Bowers. This is kind of similar to Malik Neighbors, where it's just there's so much talent, and we want to bank on the talent. We want to say, talent wins out, talent wins out. But talent can only take you so far, ladies and gentlemen. We can't expect Bowers to mature as a rookie at the toughest position still for rookies. Running backs have always translated right away to the NFL. Quarterbacks now translate from college to the pros like that. They really do. And wide receivers, same thing. Tight ends can. It's rare. Look at Laporta. Look at Musgrave. We think Musgrave's going to be a monster this year. He couldn't stay healthy. It happens with rookie tight ends for whatever reason. Look at TJ Hawkinson. Bad rookie year, and then your boy highest ranked on TJ Hawkinson in the entire fantasy industry as a sophomore. I had him ranked higher than anybody according to Fantasy Pros. And he was an absolute monster. And that's why I ranked number 1 in the entire industry in tight end rankings that year, because Hawkinson was easy to see coming, but people jumped off the train. Similar to what I was talking about earlier. It's such a tough thing to take someone's 1 year, blunder and try and determine if it was an injury and they're going to explode or they're going to end up being, a disappointment. And I don't think he's going to blunder at all. This is the best tight end prospect we've seen come out of college pretty much ever. But I do think it's a lot to ask of a tight end to say, hey, can you come out and overcome the potential quarterback problem you have? And, Minshew's okay, but can he even stay healthy? Then can you overcome the rotation when Minshew gets injured? And he probably does get injured or replaced or whatever because his team's going to struggle to win games. Can you endure that? The only caveat here, and it's a wild caveat, but it has to be had, the question has to be talked about, is this whole idea that maybe Tom Brady wants to return to football. And it's such a delicate topic because in order for Tom Brady to come back, and this is what Devontae Adams said, he said that, hell yes, I don't care. I'm getting older, but he's still got to be able to throw it better than half these dudes in the league. Adams very much would love to play with Tom Brady. He wants to play with Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, clearly, by a lot of his stuff that he's talked about in interviews lately. But Tom Brady, and I don't want to hear it in the comments, don't talk, why are you talking about Tom Brady coming back? It's not going to happen. It's not, no one's saying it's happening. But Tom Brady himself is not shooting the idea down. When people talk to him about coming back, he goes, the Raiders. You come back to the Raiders. He very much appears to have an itch to play. And you can say whatever you want. You say something negative about this, like it can't happen or Brady's washed up or can't do well in this situation, let's say. You're just a hater. He did something to you. He destroyed your team for years. There's something motivating you saying these things that you really can't say. There's no way for you to know if Tom Brady's going to try and come back. The only problem here is that the Raiders, in order for Brady to come back, it sounds like Brady would come back later in the year, decide to come back. He'd need to come back to a playoff contending team. And if the Raiders are in shambles and they need a quarterback, they're losing. So there's no playoff contention opportunity. it would have to be some weird circumstance where the team scrapes out a bunch of wins, defensive wins. Maybe Brock Bowers does fairly well, and panicking on him in hindsight wasn't a good idea. Minshew scrapes by, or maybe even Bowers doesn't do good for the entirety of the time that Minshew's in there. I don't know. But if they get to a 5-1 or a 5-2 record, and let's say injury strikes and Tom Brady gets the call, hey, it's Pierce, you want to come suit up, Batman? And Brady says, put on the helmet. Let's ride into the sunset together, Pierce. Let me start throwing some footballs to Devontae Adams and Brock Bowers. Then all of a sudden, I love the value of Bowers. I love the value of Adams. I love the value of Zamir White. I think the Raiders have tons of upside. But that is a hard puzzle piece to put together later in the year. Winning for the Raiders enough that Tom Brady has some ability to still take this team to the playoffs, but waiting long enough that Tom wants to come back, because he's not coming back anytime soon if he ever does. Too many moving parts to factor into whether Bowers is going to have a good year is basically what I'm trying to say. Bowers, to me, is a great player. His future's going to be bright, just like Malik Neighbors is going to be an elite wide receiver in the NFL. But with bad offenses and no strong quarterback play guaranteed at all the entirety of the year, it is hard to imagine this man maturing at a position where it's difficult to mature and get the consistency he needs to do what he needs to do. I'm going to say Brock Bowers, unfortunately, is in the panic chamber. I'm not saying to avoid him. I still draft him in the right ADP territory. So I understand what I'm saying here. Panic chamber does not mean total bust, like don't go near him whatsoever. It just means you need to be very careful with this situation, especially if you're counting on it early on as he's trying to mature in a really rough situation. It might be some growing pains and inconsistency for majority of the season. So I just wanted to get that out there. Brock Bowers, I love you, pal. His future is bright, but I think there are better tight end options, more consistent ones to go in better offenses, like even a Dallas Goedert and especially, obviously the Kincaids and McBrides. They're worth taking in the 4th and 5th round when you get the kind of consistency you're going to get. And I love if you want to go late tight end shopping, like a Luke Musgrave and a Goddard combination, that could be glory. Or take Bowers with Luke Musgrave and have yourself a little backup plan, and then maybe start Luke or start Goddard or whatever. And then if Bowers does get on his horse and Minshew loves him, or Brady comes back, then you're not in dangerous territory. So for now, though, I'm going to say we're panicking on Bowers a little bit for sure.
You are in the panic chamber.
I'll see you all on the next episode of the Panic Chamber. This will be weekly pretty much going forward. During the season, we're definitely weekly, but I'm trying to deliver at least one Panic Chamber episode per week going forward. I'll see you all on the next one. Don't forget to get on over to Underdog Fantasy, promo code Smitty, link in the description. Code Smitty gets it done as well. They'll match your first deposit 50%. The minimum's $10, so they'll give you $5. They'll match it 50% all the way to $250. But if you want to draft with us at midnight, use code Smitty and get it done. See you all later. I'm live Monday through Friday, every single Monday through Friday, rain or shine, 8 p.m. Eastern. Additionally, I'm live whenever news breaks. Additionally, I'm live most midnights doing drafts and having draft strategy conversation. I'll see you all later.
3, 2, 1, 0.